What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of The Real Impact. I'm your host, Austin Rice. We have a great one lined up for you guys today. We got Mr. Jesse Lane with J Lane Construction. Be sure to watch the very end. Let's get going.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, Jesse, what's going on, man?
All right, what's happening?
All right, man. Glad to have you on.
Absolutely.
So we'll just kind of kick it off, man, with, for those that are listening that may not know who you are, give a little brief background on who you are, and then we'll dive into everything else.
Yeah, so I'm Jesse Lane. I'm the CEO of an 8-figure construction company named J Lane Construction. We're in Jacksonville, Florida, and we do a lot of Northeast Florida, and we also do South Florida, and we're going to take over the country and then the world.
I like it, man. So you're the construction company, man. So kind of how did you get into the construction company? What kind of drove you that direction? And, kind of give some insight on exactly because I think a lot of people, when they think construction, they think, the guys on the side of the road moving the cinder blocks and stuff like that. But there's a lot more to it, obviously, than that.
Yeah. So my whole thing is becoming that business owner, right? Mm-hmm. So my grandfather was a business owner, a big real estate developer, actually in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And then my dad owned his own business. It was a faux finish painting business. So he was super artistic and stuff like that. He also painted people's houses as well, but he would make walls look like marble and suede and really
right.
But he had his own guys and stuff like that. He never really scaled to the extent that I've scaled my 8-figure business. But I've scaled this thing. So how I got started at age 14, my parents drugged me down to Texas, actually, from Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So that was an interesting move that took me from a skateboarder kid, smoking pot, got kicked out of every single school I went to. Next step, I would have been dead or in jail. And so I was in an alternative school after getting kicked out of the private school, then after getting kicked out of the public school. So now I was in this alternative school, and I wasn't doing too hot there either. My parents, they were about to get divorced, and I was about 12, 13 at this time. And so we moved to Texas, and that's kind of a longer story, but we don't have to get into it right now, but we definitely can later. But long story short, it changed my life, man. I would not be the man I am today if it wasn't for that experience. And from 14 to 19 years old. So I went the first time on a skill saw, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. That made me feel so good. And I realized that was my passion. And so what I did was I kept saying yes to opportunities. And so, and it was a church group that we moved down to be a part of, thank God. Right. So I kept getting opportunities like, hey, come help us build this barn. Hey, come help us build this dock or remodel this house or help this person, that person, or build this thing, build that thing. A lot of the people I work for now work for Chip and Joanna Gaines and built George W. Bush's house, and really kind of cool.
No big deal. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool people to learn from. And so I kept saying yes. And that's kind of really how I got started and found my passion. That's the beginnings of it, at least.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome, man. So obviously a lot changes from, finding the passion to then making a business out of it, because a lot of people have passions and everything, but it's a lot different. It's a lot harder to go from a passion to a viable business, right?
Yeah.
So when did it click for you that you were like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to, make my livelihood and really get the business side of it going?
It's a great question, man. I mean, I moved to Jacksonville after Texas. I left there when I was 19. And so when I moved to Jacksonville, I was working at Chick-fil-A. I was doing whatever I had to do. I was also in construction. That Chick-fil-A was a short little.
Right. Yeah.
Because that was me like 12 years ago. I was 19. I'm like 30, 31 now, about to be 31. So I was working for this trim carpenter named Sean, and I met him through a church group here in Jacksonville. And he told me, he's like, man, because I was his best employee and I was running all his crews and I'd really leveled up. You need to start your own LLC, Jesse. And I was like, man, that could be really cool. That's a really good idea. He told me about these one guys that he knew. He had the trailer and everything. It was We Got This, DIS, LLC.
Nice.
Like, well, I could do something like that, or I could be like, so what I'm thinking about, what to call my company. So I was like,
that's the hardest. That's the hardest part, by the way, for anybody listening. That is one of the hardest parts.
Exactly. It is, man, because it's really crucial.
Yeah.
This is what you're going to brand yourself on for the next however long you have the business, hopefully forever, or maybe you sell it, which is be harder. I'll tell you my business name. I mean, you already know J Lane Construction, but it'd be harder maybe for me to sell it. I'm not really sure. I'm not really planning to sell it, but anyways, that's another conversation. The kids in school called me J Lane for my nickname. So I was like, that sounds cool. J Lane Construction LLC. And nice. So I just started it off and I went from there, man. I mean, it was quite the process getting the business off the ground.
Yeah, I can only imagine, man, because obviously, it's more of a service-based business, right? And, from what we do, and buying and selling properties and things like that, like it's a service, but it's not necessarily a service, right? Because we do a lot of, direct marketing, and it's a lot easier for us to go directly to, our ideal client, our ideal seller. So for you guys, like, what was the approach on, trying to get business? Was it just more like word of mouth? Were you door knocking? Like, how'd you start off?
It's a fantastic question. I think a lot of contractors that follow me on YouTube, which is just my name, Jesse Lane on YouTube, Jesse. There's no I.
Yeah.
Then Lane like a street. Is how do I find clients? And what I tell them is start with Google My Business.
Mm-hmm.
What I did was I started with 7 months or so of SEO, like from the get-go. I paid like $700 a month or like something crazy for this guy to do SEO, but he got all the backlinks, he got all the whatever else is needed, the articles, I don't even know, to like set it all up and then get it pumping. You're not going to see results for 6 to 8 months, maybe 12.
Right.
But you're paying all this money every single month. And so I did that to start, but to generate, so there's kind of this circle of, it's kind of a catch-22, but there is a way to get it started. But once you get it started, you're golden. You have to get clients, but how do you get clients? You need to have other people give you reviews. So when new people come onto your website, they say, oh, well, another person had a great experience. Or
testimonials sell. Yeah.
That has been the gold. But how do you start? And so what I did was I went on Thumbtack, Angie's List, Home Advisor, whatever the other websites are, and Craigslist even sometimes.
Yeah.
That was the worst, but mainly like Thumbtack and like stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I just went and built someone a set of stairs, or like physically myself. I was like 21 years old, whatever it was. And this is, over a decade ago. And so I did those little jobs and I fixed the drywall and I did the door installation for a church. And then, I got this and that, and then different jobs. And so then I put a house addition on someone's house. And so, well, actually that was a little later after I got my license. Anyway, so back up a little bit. So I did these small jobs and then I got reviews. If you can get 5-star Google reviews, then people will call you. They'll say, oh, this isn't just some blank name, no review, Joe. They call.
Some guy just started his LLC yesterday and
exactly.
Google, yeah.
Exactly. But you got to start somewhere, but you got to start small. So it's just walk before you run. So, because the baby's got to get on his feet before he can walk, right? So then you have to trot and then you got to run, But
you mean you don't start off doing, hotel conversions to apartments? Like that's not the starting point. No.
Exactly. Like today, we're turning 116 unit hotel into apartments and a full amenity center renovation. And those are I can't probably say the exact numbers, but those are multi-million dollar jobs. So once you get those things, the next step is to get client testimonial videos. If you can have the person put their face in front of the internet and say, J Lane Construction or whatever, Joe's Concrete did the best whatever for me, and this is my experience, and I would definitely hire them again. Boom, done. Like 5-minute videos, 2-minute videos, whatever it may be. Put those on your website. Then, if you have Google reviews, the Google My Business listing, those are the same thing that are optimized and SEO is done. And then you have those video testimonials on a really optimized website. Done. That's game over. That's it, man.
Yeah. No, I think that's huge because I think at the end of the day, right, people want to hear from other people, not someone who's affiliated, right?
Yes.
And so those testimonials are massive selling points.
Yeah.
We struggle with that. but we've gotten better. But the video testimonial is a huge takeaway.
That's it. And you probably do a lot of direct mail because you're a wholesaler, right?
Yeah. So we actually don't do a lot of direct mail, man. So we actually just do cold calling and PPC. So we do like Google ads.
Okay. Yeah. Because cold calling probably would never work for general contractors.
Yeah. I doubt it.
Because at this point, I can't even handle, like, I was looking at yesterday and I have one, I'm a Google My Business guy, but I looked on Yelp. I'm like, oh crap, I have like a negative review. I think even 2 that I missed, but because the only thing is like that they say is negative is they won't call me back. So it's like, but it's a bunch of Karens on there that want residential little projects. Cause now I'm so massively scaled. I'm a commercial general contractor and that's it.
Right.
They're coming to Chick-fil-A asking for a burger and I just can't give them a burger.
Yeah.
You have to fill it, but there's thousands of people or hundreds of people lining up at our door to like all these like people trying to get us to do a project because we're the #1 rated in Jacksonville for 4 years in a row. That's an award, best general contractor in Jacksonville. We've also been #1 fastest growing on Inc. 5000 numerous times. Anyway, so yeah, man.
So talk about that. Talk about the transition from going from doing the residential to now being in the commercial like side that you guys are in.
Yeah, good question.
What caused the transition?
Yeah, so so one of the first permits I ever pulled was a 6,000 square foot waxing center.
Oh man.
Yeah, completely. Like, you can go back and get free waxing anytime. I'm like, thanks.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I remodeled this whole thing, and I was like 22 years old. Just got my general contractor's license. So there's actually 3 tiers in Florida. There's residential, building, and then general as far as contractors' licenses. And so I started out with building. And so after 4 years, now I've upgraded to general because I had the experience of building. Right. So, but with a building contractor's license, you can pull commercial permits. So I pulled this commercial permit, and I brought the right people in. I might have not have known exactly every little detail of what I was doing because I was so young, but I pulled the right people in, and it ultimately got done. And I was like, hey, can you guys do a video testimonial for me? Like, this would be so epic. This would be like,
right. Yeah.
They did it. And so that was the catalyst behind my commercial construction career.
Nice. So
so since then we've done dessert shops, oxygen bottling facilities, auto dealerships. We're doing, like, if you look at jlaneconstruction.com, we're working for Pepsi right now. We're working for BMW right now. We're working for so many big companies. And it helps even smaller businesses like breweries, Disco Witch Brewery and Sweet Cravings by Shar and Crumble Cookie. Crumble Cookie's a franchise, but we still did one. Right. Beach and Hodges, if you go there, Jay Lane built that. So all kinds of commercial build outs, but also we're building another 6,000 square foot new build ground up imaging center for optimal imaging. So awesome. we're talking MRIs. That's in Middleburg. So a little corner lot by the road. And so we're building that. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So you start off building stairs for people off of Craigslist,
That's it, man.
Yeah. And then now going into, building ground up, imaging centers for, that are going to eventually save people's lives.
Dude, I got chills, man.
Yeah. Like that's what's crazy. And that's where I think a lot of people miss, as I think so many people want to start at the end, right? Like, so many people want to start at their goal and they forget that, like, in order to get to the goal, like, you got to start small. Like you said, you gotta
that's what, like,
you run.
Yeah, exactly. That's what Gary Vee always talks about. You got to get the dirt, bro. Like, you got to like live in the dirt for like a decade, and that's how you actually get somewhere. And I just did an interview with him last week on my YouTube channel. So awesome. 15-minute podcast. This is the next podcast I did after Gary Vee.
Oh, hell yeah.
But then, and I've had the opportunity to have dinner with Grant Cardone a couple months ago in Miami. And it was awesome, man. Just like the opportunity. So backing up a little bit, what I've done to help others is start a YouTube channel. And that's one of my main passions in life. And it's Jesse Lane on YouTube, just like sharing wisdom and providing value. And so, but what that's done, it takes a lot of effort for me, like thinking of ideas, filming them, editing it, which takes forever, making a thumbnail, trying to pick the best title, posting it. It's like literally like birthing a baby. Like everyone probably gets so mad at me for saying that, but nothing like actually birthing a baby. But what I
theoretically, yeah.
Theoretically, there's like a whole there's a conception process. There's like this whole process. Then you finally put it out on YouTube and it's like out there, and it's so sometimes they do well, sometimes they don't. You don't really know. But then the ones that do have 250,000 views or more, and then they're really helping people. And then I've sold spreadsheets to help people in the links in my YouTube descriptions on jesselaneconsulting.com. And people are buying these templates every single day. There's revenue coming in on $100 spreadsheet or a $300 package or a $4,700 internal systems website template, which is like a whole nother conversation to systemizing your business.
I want to touch on that real quick though, because you're running an 8-figure construction company. How do you have time to do all that? Right? How do you have time to do the YouTube? How do you have time to do consulting? How do you have time to put on a business conference like you just did? Like, how do you have time to do all that?
Yeah. So dude, it's literally one word. It's Netflix. Or two more words, video games. And then you put a huge X to those things and then you have the time.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think that's where a lot of people miss. I think so many people start, trying to time block everything. And it's really just the
people
time.
You just asked me that question, and guess how, dude, I don't even start my day till like 9 o'clock sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, I'm serious. I'm not like, oh, I'm an 8-figure guy. I got to get up at 4 a.m.
Feel you. Yeah.
I'm working until like 1 a.m. But
yeah.
But, it's just like when's best for you? Like you, the listener, like you need to understand when's best for you. When do you optimize? When are you optimized? Then you'll scale. And then also you got to find your passion. If you can know yourself, be self-aware, and then find your passion, you'll enter this light beam I always talk about. That once you get in there, it's like a whole nother thing, because you're not like working at Walmart. You freaking hate it. Work is drudgery. It's none of that. It's can't wait for Monday morning.
Right. Well, that's the thing is like, I think the other thing is too, like when you get into that light beam, like there is no such thing as like Monday morning, right? Because I think Monday morning has this like connotation, right? Where it's like, you're dreading it. You're not looking forward to it. But like when you're in that light beam, because I know what you're saying, like once you find your passion, you know what you're good at, and you focus on that, like just strictly, like there is no Monday morning, because every day is the same. Like you wake up every day, you crush it, you go to bed, you wake up the next day, you crush it. And like, there's no like, oh, I got to do this tomorrow. You'll have tasks that are mundane. You'll have tasks that are just tedious, but necessary. But there's never going to be that moment, Now,
there are things that are with business ownership that are extremely frustrating.
Oh, yeah.
Things that take extremely way more time than you ever would have imagined. Like, just there's so many things I can name. Just even me flipping a house. Like, it's just over budget, over time, everything drags. But there are other things that, especially once those are finally done, you feel so fulfilled, so good. But those are the things that go really smoothly and you really love it. But you have to learn how to balance those things. I feel like there's so many good little sound bites, like that time clip. That should be like an Instagram reel, like.
Oh yeah.
Netflix, like, cross it out. Like, so, but yeah, man, once you learn to balance those, it's good stuff.
Yeah. No,
and then you learn how to systemize your business too.
Right. And that's another piece. Like that's a whole different piece in and of itself. Right. Like, and I think that's a big kicker to the scalability, behind, especially like where you guys are is, I would assume you guys have the systems, the people, the processes in place to be able to take on these jobs, but more than one job at a time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're doing such a massive, larger scale, but we eventually will be massive. We're not a 50 or 100 or 200 or $300 million company, nothing like that. But we're a $10, $15 million company right now, 2022. So the point is systems and people. Those are the two things that make business work. So you can't have, actually, I interviewed Gary last week and he said, actually, he disagreed with me. He's like, you can have just people and not systems, because he's so people centric. He's like he just gets people. But you definitely, absolutely cannot just have systems without the people to work the systems. It's like a bridge that leans on each other.
Yeah.
So what I've done with like my YouTube channel, different things, and with my business is I've built this internal website that's hosted on Squarespace that if you ever read the E-Myth, if you're listening to this and you've read the E-Myth by Michael E. Gerber, hopefully you have. Like every entrepreneur should start with that book. It's like you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, then you read E-Myth by. So systemization and how to get everybody doing the same thing across the whole company the same exact way. And so that's what I've done with my companies. And this is a template that I sell on jesseLaneConsulting.com. And I just launched it like a month ago. I've sold like 10 of them and they're $4,700. And so, yeah, it's super cool. And it's changing people's lives. Like I get these emails and they're just like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even know all this stuff was even going to be in there. Like I literally have my systems, this in a box for sale.
Yeah, that's killer.
It's specific for a construction company. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's awesome though. I mean, and I'm with you on the fact of like, I feel like systems and people are the two necessary components for the business, right?
Definitely.
Because, you know, you can have, I know Gary Vee, I know how like you said, he's so people centric, but I feel like if you have people, but you don't have a process or a system for them to follow, then people tend to kind of, start getting distracted and going off on different things. And at the end of the day, no one's going to be as dedicated to your business as you.
Exactly. Yeah. Your business is a reflection of you as the owner, if you're the owner. And if you're not the owner, that's okay. Get with someone, support them and realize that you can benefit too. Like I give my top employees, they're like not just employees, they're like my team partner, cuts of the company,
Right.
And so
yeah, it's are you familiar with Alex Hormozy? He talks about incentive plans, right?
Yeah.
Talks about how you can scale with incentive plans all the time.
Yeah.
And attracting the best talent doing that. And, and I think that's a big thing, especially right now in the time that we're in, is so many people try to get the best talent for the cheapest possible.
Right.
And when you look at it, we pay a lot higher than industry standard on our sales team and everything like that. And, every conference I ever go to, everybody's like, whoa, yeah. But, we're not constantly having to go through the same process everybody else is. We're not constantly having to interview. We're not constantly having to, turn over and do all that.
You lose the most money when you turn over.
Oh yeah. I agree with that 1000%.
Yeah. So what's one big question that you would ask me? And maybe as we kind of maybe close this thing out at some point, we don't need to drag it. I want to provide so much value to everyone listening.
Yeah, I would say what would be someone that is just getting started, right? Or maybe a little lost, right? What would be your advice on finding that thing to get into that light beam, right?
Yeah. So I believe everyone has that. Some people might have one that's, I don't know if this is like smaller or like, but no one's less important or more important than anyone else. But maybe your thing is to be a cashier at Walmart or like, I don't know, but you think it's mindset. So you think about how you're affecting those people, So maybe that's the thing that makes you come alive. But the thing is, I guess I was just lucky to be put in the position to where I could thrive and try different things. I had lots available to me. Like when I moved to Texas, but I didn't really have much available to me when I was in Pennsylvania. It was just skateboarding and smoking pot. That's kind of just like, and snowboarding. That was just kind of like thrown like that was like right in front of me. So if I had stayed there, I'm not sure how well it really would have done. I would not be the man I am today if it wasn't for that. It wasn't a good culture fit, like long term, but it radically transformed me going through that process. So when I moved to Texas, I could have done, I used to make crochet beanies. I used to crochet.
That's awesome.
That was actually a Pennsylvania thing. The coolest kids did it. Like it was like,
wow.
One kid's grandma taught him how to crochet because we could make our own custom beanies. We had like tassels and like balls and like bells and all kinds of like, we were like the coolest.
Do whatever you wanted. Yeah.
Yeah. We were the coolest snowboarders in town because like we just made our own like on the way to this.
Awesome.
Anyway, but like in Texas, I could have done anything because they had so many like arts and crafts stuff. And I even tried like farming with horses. Like I did it all. Like literally me, a team of huge draft horses on the back of it. I'm sitting on a plow, like holding leather reins. You have like no idea if I only had like photos or something of this, but like I didn't have like a cell phone. So I was anyway. anything would have been it. And I was exposed to a lot, but I got joy out of what construction did for me. And
Mhm.
so that's what I dove into. So if something makes you excited, like I was talking to a kid the other day, this bonfire, he was brought there as a bunch of real estate guys like Obie Dorsey and all these guys like around
Right.
it was at Mike McKay's house. But I don't know if you know these guys. You're in Jacksonville, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and like Alex Rose. Anyway, so this kid came and he was like, my passion's video games, you know? And so maybe that's what he needs to run after. I mean,
Right.
me in video games is an entire waste of time because my passion's something else.
Right. No, and
Yeah.
I think that speaks volumes, man. It's just whatever brings you joy, it makes you light up. You
Yeah.
know, it's whatever gives you that spark. I think that's the best piece of advice that anybody could give.
Yeah, I mean, it's gotta be even more than that too. Like, I don't even know what the term would be, but you have to really know. Like, it's not like, oh, video games make me really happy, so that I'm gonna sit around and play video games all day. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
But
No,
yeah.
I think that's true because I think when you know, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like cliche to say that, right? But it's just fact, like when you feel it, like and there's no like second guessing. There's no kind of like, oh, is this it? And I think that's the biggest like point to drive home to people is
I think that's I like that I asked you to bring up a big point, and I think you did it, man.
yeah. Awesome, man. Well, we'll wrap this thing up, man. I appreciate you hopping on with us today. And then guys, be sure to tune in every Monday. We'll do a live episode, and every Thursday we got an episode posted with a great entrepreneur such as Jesse. Jesse, I appreciate you hopping on, man. What's one last thing you'd like to leave everybody with?
Follow me on Instagram, Jesse Lane TV.
There we go. There we go.
Love it. Jesse Lane TV, baby. All right.
That's it.